Mesdames et messieurs, the greatest festival of our contemporary society, the Olympic Games, is about to begin.
This is gonna be close.
Oh! They're all completely gassed! They've given it everything on the global bucket! Oh, yeah! Go! Oh!
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. But that is an Olympic championship.
Ready.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Keep the Flame Alive, the podcast for fans of the Olympics and Paralympics. If you love the games, we are the show for you. I am your host, Jill Jaracz, joined as always by my lovely co-host, Alison Brown. Alison, hello, how are you?
Getting a little tired of balancing on top of your head on one palm in a handstand.
Well, let me just throw you then, okay? Fly, baby, fly.
Just swing me around like a jump rope.
Oh, yes, we are talking about the World Games and all of these sports and disciplines that we don't see very often because they're not publicized as much, but exist. And it's been a week.
I have been having so much fun watching all this stuff. Like you said, that we don't see too often and that I don't know about. So I'm like, what is this? What is this? Let me try this. Some are good. Some
Yeah.
are a little scary.
Yep, exactly. So we are talking about the first half of the 2025 World Games from Chengdu, China. The World Games are the purview of the International World Games Association, which IWGA, and they showcase sports that are not typically on the Olympic or Paralympic program, or they could be on the Olympic program because some have moved up from the World Games level to the Olympics, like a lot of karate did for Tokyo, but now it's back out of the Olympics. Breaking was in the World Games ahead of Paris 2024. Squash has been on the World Games program for a while. That's going to be at LA 2028, along with lacrosse. Yes. So that's kind of a testing ground for new events, new disciplines, perhaps. And then it's also a place where there's just the Olympics are too big. So we've got them here and they deserve a worldwide competition that's special because it happens every 4 years, just like the Olympics.
And these are all events that have world championships.
Yes.
So, for example, like World Aquatics covers a lot of these water sports that we're seeing. They just don't have them in the Olympics, but these are international, worldwide sports where you've got enough participation. It's just not quite at the same level.
Yeah. World Games is only summer sports. They are held once every 4 years, a year after the Summer Olympics. So you'll always see them 1 year later. The World Games has a list of sports it recognizes, just like the IOC does. And they choose the host cities. The host cities choose the sports they want on their program from the list of approved sports. And then the other big thing about the World Games is that they can't build any new venues. Everything has to take place in what already exists. So you will see sports drop off the program and come on the program with what the host city wants to have on their sports program and what they have space for. So that's kind of interesting.
Though Chengdu seems to have bent that rule a little bit because they did build an artificial beach,
Oh, okay.
but it was not ostensibly for the World Games. It's now going to be turned over as a public park. So I think there's a little wiggle room in that build, but the idea is that the IWGA does not want cities investing the millions and millions of dollars that it takes to host an Olympics. But if they fix a few things, that's okay. But we know with Birmingham, there was nothing built. It was just a few, let's clean it up
Right.
and make it up to a certain standard, but minimal investment. So cities like Birmingham and Chengdu, these smaller cities that could never in, a million years host an Olympics can host this really amazing international multi-sport event.
Exactly. And Birmingham was Alabama 2022 host. So we are also still on a post-pandemic watch. It's amazing how long those legs are because Birmingham 2022 got postponed. So therefore, there's been only 3 years since the last World Games. And then this kind of, I think, wraps up the pandemic postponements.
I think so, right, because because Tokyo got postponed, so then Birmingham got postponed. There's that domino effect of all
Yes.
these different events. And I love when people are just like, "Oh, we need to move the Olympic host for whatever." And I'm like, "You do not understand the mountain you are asking to be moved." And how, yeah, we're in 2025 and we're still feeling the ripple effects of 2020.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty amazing. So, like we said, some sports move from the World Games to the Olympics. For LA, you will see World Games sports squash and lacrosse and flag football on the program. So, this is a good time to watch those sports if you haven't seen them before, and you can see who's at the top levels, what the sports look like, and all of that jazz. If you are new to the World Games, which you might be, and it is still something that even though we watched Birmingham together as a podcast, I still have, like, what is the World Games all about going through my head? Because if you think the IOC is not transparent, you don't get much information from the IWG at all.
Though, to be fair, I think that is a point of the number of employees and how much money
Oh,
they have.
yeah. Yeah,
And
I'm
then
sure.
and then you had the added this time of we're getting a lot of things that were translated from Chinese, from the
Yes,
hosts that got
yeah.
a little wonky.
Yeah, but I just don't think that it's kind of this interesting dichotomy that you see with smaller organizations that are trying to be big, and the World Games is a big event. I mean, this is only the 12th edition. So if you put that into Olympics, 1912.
1412 is 48. So the 1936 or 48,
Wait.
thereabouts.
Yeah, 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 something. So you're talking about how early that would be in Olympic history. And yet you have today's desires to have so much media and so many outlets and so many social channels. And that's a lot of work to put together for a small organization that likely doesn't have a ton of money, although the IOC is involved somehow.
And does support financially.
Yes.
There is
yes,
money flowing from the IOC.
Yes. And I would imagine broadcast help as well. For Chengdu, we have 34 sports, 60 disciplines, 256 medal events, over 4,000 athletes, which is bigger than a Winter Olympics in terms of athlete numbers, and then over 100 nations are there. So that's pretty good. It's much smaller than a Summer Olympics, but pretty darn big for an
I
event.
mean, that's bigger than a Youth Olympics.
General observations you've had so far / feed beefs or feed yays.
Well, I have not been using the app, I've been using the website. Generally, if you go to the schedule and just the day-by-day list versus there's another screen that gives you tiles of different events,
Mhm.
go to the schedule, you will do much better of getting the right thing. There have been a few times where I click on something and it shows me something else entirely.
Yes.
That's been annoying. And there's been a lot of reloading of pages. But in general, if you are watching a replay, very easy to move back and forth. There was one day where it got very glitchy, but that was just one day. In general, their streaming, I think, has been really good.
I would agree. I am pleasantly surprised. I am also using the website, even watching it on my phone via the website versus the app. I've heard that the app is glitchy. I think listener Tommy said that it was not great. And I would agree that I've clicked on some events and not gotten what I wanted or what I thought I was getting. And the other thing that I like about it is that if you pause something, they kind of save it for you. And you're like, do you want to continue watching this?
Right. So if you go back in, it'll be at the spot you left it.
Yes.
Oh, that's been amazing.
That's
Yeah, a
been
lot
great.
of people have said in the app sometimes if an event hasn't happened yet and you click it, you get the Birmingham, which is very confusing. I agree. That is
Yes.
very confusing. So if you're having trouble on the app, try the website because it really has been working well.
Yeah. And so I've been really impressed. I would love to have a 10-second or 30-second fast forward button. They do a rewind, but there's a lot of times where I rewind too far because I missed something and then I got to sit there and watch. I can't jump back to where I was because there's no fast forward button. And a lot of times, my big fingers on my little phone can't move it ahead where I want it to be. And like this happens with the Olympics feeds too, where you've got maybe 10 minutes of dead time ahead of an event starting. And that's just the way it is because the things will go to air. I would love to be able to more easily fast forward than you've got on there now.
And it seems like all the sports are there. You don't necessarily see if they have multiple mats going, say in preliminary jiu-jitsu, you don't see all of the mats. They've got it on one mat. But it seems like all the sports are there. So whatever sport you want to dip into, you can take a look.
Yeah, and that's good. And of course, they have a lot of good commentators, I will say, because Shuk Fastani's Ollie Hogbin and Blythe Lawrence are there, and that is great to hear them.
I only watch Floorball so I could listen to Ollie. And he did not disappoint.
Oh, he doesn't disappoint. He is so excited about Floorball. And he told me to watch a women's match, Sweden versus Switzerland, because it was amazing. And it was, but I only had gotten through like one period. And then had to go away, and I haven't gotten back to it. And I think floorball medals have already been awarded. But
well, the fun thing about the World Games is you really don't have to worry too much about spoilers. Right. It's not on your feed. It's not all over the news. And also, we don't know most of these athletes. So even if you know the outcomes, it may not stick with you who won or who won the gold medal. So you can watch things from 4 days ago, and it's still a great watch and a great competition.
Right. And I do think that is part of the struggles or challenges. I would say I do think that's part of the challenges that the IWGA has in getting momentum going for this event from the general public. Because you do see pretty empty stands in a lot of sports. There are some sports that are not spectator friendly at all. That's fine because most of your viewing audience is going to be on a screen, but it helps the athletes to have people there. It helps the athletes to have it makes your giant global event more of a global happening.
One thing I think the World Games missed an opportunity with advertising is that there are several Olympians who are competing in the World Games. For example, gold medalist in trampoline, Bryony Page, is competing in synchronized trampoline. And I have barely seen her on their feeds. I mean, on their social feeds. And there are others, especially several times Blythe, who's doing all the gymnastics events, said, oh, this person competed in Paris last year in solo trampoline, and now they're competing in synchronized. And I'm sure there are others. I know there was a swimmer and a couple in the fighting sports, and obviously in karate, people who competed in Tokyo. I think they missed out on advertising those, we have Olympians in our event as well, making that connection so that spectators who don't know what the World Games is understand that this is an incredibly high level elite competition.
Yeah. And that's tough. I mean, how do you build that audience with a very limited staff, limited resources? But I don't
tell
know.
people to go watch every form of acrobatics you can. Oh,
but I mean, it's the same struggles that we have as a podcast.
Right. And even these smaller Olympic sports.
Yes. And they don't have the budget to necessarily give a lot of promotion to their sport. I mean, if you have a limited budget, where does that go in terms of getting the staff you need to do the work behind stuff? Where does that go into providing stipends for athletes so that they have funds to put towards their training? Where does that go to promoting the sport to get a bigger audience for it? Is it a sport that wants an audience? I don't know.
Doesn't every sport want an audience?
You would think, but I mean,
or not.
Maybe it's the who wants to be at that level and who at that kind of competition and who doesn't.
Fair enough.
So, but yeah, it's a real struggle, and you see some events at Chengdu that do have people there, and you see a lot of empty stands. But I wonder also from the organization side, how much resource did they have to put into advertising and building what the World Games is? And maybe with all of the feeds that they've got and the building of video content, maybe that helps the next edition, which is going to be in Germany.
And Birmingham had the benefit, and obviously we don't know Chinese geography very well. Birmingham was in driving distance of several good population centers. So that the World Games, I think, is a lot of, I don't know how many people will fly.
Right. At this point, I mean, could it
Right.
be something that people fly to and go, "Oh, this is something I want to see"? I don't know, but Chengdu, I think, is a huge city.
Is it?
Yeah, it's got over 20 million people.
Oh, okay. So
So,
yeah, there's enough people. That's not an issue.
right, it's getting them to come out. And also, it sounds like it's been hot and humid. So, who wants to sit outside for some of these sports like parkour? I mean, parkour is something you could put inside. Although I'm sure outside is easier to stage.
I couldn't watch parkour because all that kept going through my head was that sound from The Office. Parkour, parkour. And there were no announcers on parkour at one
Oh,
point.
we had one. I watched a women's sprint that had announcers.
Okay, yeah. Earlier, a couple of the events did not have announcers, and I discovered I don't like that.
No, that's hard because you do need somebody there to describe what's going on.
Especially when it's a sport you're unfamiliar with. But even when it's a sport I'm familiar with, I find that very comforting. Like I'm watching it with somebody.
Right. And it is the rare commentator who can do this job solo as well. Like Blythe can do it solo because she knows gymnastics so well. But if you're getting a sport that is new to you, the inability to have somebody else there to bounce stuff off of is tough. And there have been some sports where I've been like, ooh, you need a color person.
But then you get the color person from wakeboarding.
That was a tough one. That was hard to listen to.
Okay, so if you've watched wakeboarding, if you've watched some of the freestyle skiing or skateboarding, sometimes the sport expert will be a little loose, let's just say. And, using the lingo and having a little fun with it, great. But this guy went like 10 steps too far.
Yeah, and needs a lesson in learning how to commentate for women.
Oh, goodness gracious, yes. But also he swore a few times.
He did?
Well, not swears like that would be
FCC banned?
correct.
Okay.
But certainly not something you do on sports commentary.
Okay.
You don't say HE double hockey sticks on sports commentary. It's just not done. But the joke that I put in the Facebook group was he said, "Holy cannoli, Axel Foley."
Yeah, which again, that's kind of funny, but as we had listeners, did not know who Axel Foley was.
And I was more mad because holy cannoli is mine. That's what I say. How dare you, wakeboard commentator, who was never identified in anything that I heard.
For good reason.
We're coming for you.
I know. I do want to go back and watch some more of the boating sports, but when I saw him commentating on everybody's got a crush on this one athlete. Let's talk about this athlete's earrings. That just was, I hope he's getting feedback. I hope he is getting some ways to improve. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of these commentators are athletes trying to transition into commentating, because I've seen a lot from the IOC and IPC about learning how to commentate and helping athletes and doing a lot of training for athletes to do that. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of them got hired or an assignment to help out at World Games and aren't up to snuff.
They're not all working with Ollie Hogben.
No, that is very true. But it is fun when you do have the athlete perspective, because I saw that in Marathon Canoe. That was really helpful. Orienteering, the color commentator who was an athlete, was very, very helpful with that.
Tug of War, actually.
Yes.
Was very good. The athlete commentator who was doing that, talking about the strategy, and it's not just pull your hardest.
Right. Well, and we'll get to Finswimming, freediving, which we have thoughts about, but I will say the color commentator, who I believe after I watched enough of it, I think he was introduced with a Spanish name, which made sense, but he also sounded a little like Oscar from the snowboard venue.
In Beijing?
Yes.
Oh.
And like, this guy's the best, because he started everything with like, okay, this is what's going and I loved it so much. And I know that English wasn't his first language, but he just had a rhythm and excitement about the sport that was it was catchy. But overall, this has been a fun experience to watch. And I feel like they've improved from Birmingham.
Very much. I mean, the feeds have been so much better. I know people have had a few glitches and problems, but oh,
Yeah,
so
on the
much
whole,
better.
this has been so much fun to watch. Officiating or volunteer jobs we'd want to do.
Okay, I got 2.
Okay.
1, I am wearing those light up sneakers and those light up gloves from the opening ceremonies. I'm going to come into the office wearing them every day. That was fantastic. And then the second one I want, which I didn't see, but I know has to exist, I want to put the mannequins in the bottom of the pool for life
Oh,
saving.
that was also one on my list because I did see people on the side, like with mannequins and nets, kind of pull them down the side of the pool. I'm like, oh,
Yes. It's kind of like at the Olympics, we saw the guy who had to jump into the pool to rescue an errant swim cap.
yes.
So I do like to swim in the pool, but I shouldn't say I'm not a very good swimmer. I'm a perfectly good swimmer, but I can't actually like swim strokes, if you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
So like putting the mannequin in would be perfect for me. I just got to get down there, set it exactly right, and get back up.
I would, even though Finswimming freediving, I have issues with. I did like how the announcer would say top time when it was time for them to go. They had like 20, here's the time where you have 20 seconds and you got to get underwater. But it was called top time. So I did like that. I also enjoyed canoe kayak. I watched the kayak marathon. And they have people who weigh the boats because the boats have to be specific weights. I would like that job. There was also a person who was fishing weeds out of the lake so that they didn't get caught on the boats.
I also saw a job perfect for you at DanceSport.
Oh, which I have not watched yet.
Yes. So there is a person because order is randomized. So the
Okay.
couples don't know when they're all doing the walls for the cha-cha-cha or whichever. They don't know what order they're gonna go in. There is a woman standing on the side. She's got a headset. She's got a clipboard.
Yes.
She has a pen where she directs people.
Oh, yes.
It gets better. And even though it's all electronic, they do have it looks like a pin board where then they put the numbers of the dance couples up in the order that it goes. And it's for each dance so that she's continually pinning things, ordering these couples around. I said, that is for Jill.
Oh, okay, guys. Show's over. I got to go watch DanceSport. That's been fun. Totally. I will totally watch DanceSport for that. Let's talk about the opening ceremony.
Well, I think the opening ceremony is the best place where you see the difference in scale from an Olympics or a Paralympics. This opening ceremony did not cost $7 million to put on.
No.
Very low key in that sense, but tremendous amount of fun.
Oh, I loved it.
I loved it. They had the beginning with the dancers with the light up shoes and the gloves. They had the dancers that reminded me of the ones we saw in hockey in Beijing with the big feathers that we loved so much in their hair. So there was a lot of that fantastic Chinese cultural elements to it. The Parade of Nations moved along briskly. It was a lot of fun. Tons of fireworks, fun fireworks.
Really good fireworks. Like they made a tree with the fireworks.
Singing children. They checked all the boxes and didn't break the bank.
Yes. And I had ended up reading in Xinhua, I'm not sure if that's the right way to pronounce it, but Chinese website that's in English, news website. And there was the venue for the opening ceremonies along a lake, and they had a long viewing stand. And they said initially we planned to reuse the stadium that they used for the Chengdu Universiade games in 2023, but after watching the Paris 2024 opening ceremony, we decided to craft something new. So they were really inspired by Thomas Joly.
Using the lake. So using
yes,
the way
yes.
he used the river, they used the lake.
And I will say those Bluetooth lights are the new projection mapping. I don't think we're going to see as much projection mapping anymore. We will see all of those lights, which are really cool. They had this intro video to the beginning, which I don't think they needed, because it wasn't like a change of scenery thing. It was
Fair.
it was really more for the TV crowd, the screen crowd.
But the Bluetooth works, I think we'll have to see it more in person, but I think Bluetooth lights work well both in person and
Oh,
on
yeah, no,
television better than the projection mapping.
yes, because it's easier to film, and you don't have to be at a certain angle to enjoy it. I want some silver pants like they had in the opening ceremonies.
Those were amazing, though they did reminded me a little bit of those sweat the pounds off tracksuits from like the 70s and the 80s.
So, yeah, they had this fun opening number. They go immediately into the athletes parade. So you have in the center of the stage while they're dancing, you still have more dancers.
The tireless volunteer dancers
Yes. And then you have the country plaque ladies.
who didn't blink.
Oh, they were amazing. They walked forward, but the rest their upper body was sideways so that the plaque would face the stands.
But if you notice, they turned sideways when the country was announced,
Oh,
but then they didn't blink. They were slightly terrifying, but incredibly beautiful and
Yes.
so as you would expect.
most of the uniforms for the athletes were sporty, which was good.
Variation on track pants or shorts, t-shirt or polo shirt.
hmm China was green.
I wrote down, why is China in green? You have two colors on your flag that are very good.
But I think they call Chengdu the green city.
Okay, that's
And they're
fair.
trying to make it a lot more of a environmental thing. I
Which makes
imagine.
sense with the tree.
Yes. Of course, huge delegation from China.
They're in everything.
Yes, the panda and monkey mascots were following pretty much every delegation. Oh my gosh, they are so cute. Especially compared to what they brought out for the closing handover ceremonies at Birmingham 2022.
I mean, we jokingly called the when we saw it in Birmingham, I think I called it a dime store, Bing Dwen Dwen. It is much improved. The graphics that they've created for each of the sports that they'll show with the mascot doing, fantastic. Not disappointed in all the sportswear. All were good. Disappointed that Team USA did not get Ralph Lauren. They just got like a USA t-shirt. But
Oh, that's
Italy
right.
got Armani.
Did they?
Yes, they had that same EA7 logo on it. So Team Italy for the World Games was dressed by Armani,
Wow.
which is the official Olympic outfitter for that team.
Interesting. That's something. I am very curious where the World Games fits into Team USA's list of stuff to do. If they're like, oh, here is yet another event that we have to deal with, is what comes to
Manage.
mind. But manage, yeah. Yeah, why their uniforms don't just get rolled over into the rest of the Olympic kit, because they don't
Not-
send a big team.
And not that I minded, because you know I'm not a Ralph Lauren Team USA kit fan.
hmm
But extra kudos to Colombia because they carried balloons. And the Philippines, who, even though it was a tracksuit, was just an explosion of color.
Very nice. Very nice. Flags came in, and then I remembered the flag throwing.
I wrote it down. So, do you want to know what I actually wrote down?
Yes, I do.
The flag flick is back,
Oh,
baby.
Thank you, because I couldn't remember what we called it. And I'm like, throwing, that's not right. Oh my gosh. And they were spectacular.
I was so excited. But then you get the message from the IOC president, and I got confused for a second. Did you?
What
That-
were you confused about?
That it wasn't T-Bach.
Oh.
It threw me when Kirsty Coventry popped up. And I think that's going to take some time. This was the first event of her presidency to really do this welcome. She did it on video. It was very nice. It was very, youth of the world, athletes of the world come together. Isn't this great? Wonderful.
And I thought it was it sounded a little maternal. Like she wanted let's have a good time and go athletes. And I thought it was a good little message for what it was in the
Agreed.
hold officials talking and protocol stuff that you have to go through. It was a good message.
But there was definitely that little moment of, "Oh, you're not
Yeah.
T-Bach." It made me remember to not evaluate anything that Kirsty Coventry does against T-Bach, because I
Right.
know my affection for him, not that I don't recognize his flaws, but I do have an incredible amount of affection and respect for him as a human being and for what he's done as IOC president. So that reminded me, be fair to Kirsty. She deserves her shot. So yeah, I
Yes.
agree. It was a good speech.
Yes. After all the oaths, we do another performance, and there's video with kids, and you hear the theme song, which is some pop schlock that I'm sure is stuck in everybody's ears who is there because they're hearing it all the time.
Did you have a reaction to the Chinese anthem? I
I, you
did.
know, what kind of reaction did you have?
Just my heart stopped for a second because it took me back.
Yeah,
Because
it did. It
we
was
heard
like,
it so much
right?
being in Beijing, and I just, and I don't think I've really heard it since. I don't remember hearing it in Paris. I just might not have been at any event where a Chinese athlete won.
Hmm.
So it made me jump a little bit, but in a good way, in a nice memories way.
Yeah, the memories like, but my body just went because they go do 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 do, and then I just automatically flicked with with the flags. I knew when it was coming. I just
Oh, that was the best memory flood. I'm like, the flag flick is back.
so good. But the sad thing is, I haven't watched a lot of the medal ceremonies because
I
I'm
haven't
just
seen it.
so far behind on watching everything I want to watch. And I did see a bit of one ceremony, I think in gymnastics, and they
All
had
electronic.
yeah.
That's
So
pretty much any indoor sport. The flags are on the screen. They don't have physical flags.
and that I understand because that's probably something to be installed somehow in whatever venue they're in, but I gotta say I miss it. And I'm
Well,
sure I wouldn't be surprised if it's in outdoor venues too, where they just don't have flagpoles.
and that's
So,
a lot of flags to buy.
yes, that's very true. So I get budget, but boy, it was so nice. And we'll see it again at the closing.
Flick that flag, baby.
Better fireworks in Beijing. And I think that's because you weren't in a stadium. And I saw them from within the stadium, which was cool, but the bird's nest has like an overhang. So you don't get necessarily the full effect when they're going all around you. But these were amazing fireworks.
And you know what was the best moment of all, as it should be?
The
That
cauldron lighting,
cauldron. The cauldron coming up out of the water.
right? This is apparently the first World Games with a cauldron lighting. And oh man, they started
A
off with a bang
plus.
via powerboat.
And they lit the little torches along the way, which weren't really lit. I realized it was a light, but it didn't matter.
No, but it seemed like the first people who came into the stadium, they had fire. But then when they gave it to the wakeboarders, because it was a water ski wakeboarding lighting, that was obviously electric. And then the commentators kept saying, "Oh, will the flame go out?" And I just was yelling back, "No, it won't go out because it's not a flame, it's electric." But
It's electric. Sorry.
but then when they lit the fountain, because in the center of the lake was a fountain, and then they lit it, and it looks like actual flames are coming out of the top of the fountain.
Brilliant. Brilliant design, brilliant execution. Amazing with the fire and the water combination. And if we're trying to integrate the lake and integrate these elements, absolute 5-star cauldron.
Yeah. Yeah. What a way. Short show overall, and I'm sure part of that is because not as many nations, but also they only went in a straight line, so they didn't have to parade around a whole stadium. It was just very quick, very snappy, very fun.
Very effective.
Yeah. What a way to start your event.
All they needed, honestly, from me was that cauldron. After the great, I mean, what did we call it? The snow flame?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh. And then they came out with this. I'm like, Beijing.
good job. Good
You should have
job.
gotten the folks from Chengdu involved.
Right? I want to talk quick about the medal ceremony because I did see one. The podiums are green
Yes.
as well because of the Green City thing.
Medals are beautiful on screen.
They also get a little box with mascot.
Yep.
Medal girls have these long flowing skirts.
Very
Very
lovely.
pretty. It's a nice look.
And the medals, which, as we mentioned, when they did the press release, did not include this detail, have a small piece that can be removed and given to a coach, a loved one, a friend.
Oh, is that it? But that's what an initial design for like Paris was.
Paris originally was a stack of medals. Your medal would be stacked of multiple very thin
Yes.
medals. So what Chengdu did is it's designed like a locket. It opens up and there's a piece that comes out that
Get
has some
out of here.
engraving, and you can give it to another person to share your medal with.
Okay. Let's get into the sports. I don't think I even watched I watched more sports than was on here. What did you start with?
Okay. So lots and lots and lots of the gymnastics events. All the acrobatics, pairs, mixed, groups. Love everything about it. It has all the drama of gymnastics. It has all the fun music and costumes of figure skating. You have people flying around. You have people balancing on other people's heads. You have several iterations of Grease music. That seemed to be a popular selection,
Okay.
which, again, love that. The British men group, particularly theatrical.
I did see that. I know what you're talking about. So that's the men's acrobatic group routine is a 4-person routine.
Yes.
And with acrobatics, you always have some larger people who are bases and then one small person who is a flyer. And that is part of the deal. And there's a lot of let's make a tall tower of people or one person if you're in a pair. And then the flyer will get on top of all of you and then like balance on the next person's head on one arm.
Right. So in the pair, you've got a base and a flyer. In the groups, you have a base, a middle, and a flyer.
Yes.
Chinese men's group had a fall, but please go back and watch that because they are special in terms of their choreography and their skills. As you would, China has such a long history of acrobatics.
Which I was surprised that I didn't see them in more events. Maybe I'm not watching enough, but I watched the men's group and I watched a little bit of the men's pairs and I watched women's pairs and then trampoline, men's synchro trampoline and women's double tramp.
These gymnastics events are all qualified from the previous world championships. So they don't have a lot of, I think there was only 8 teams in every event.
Right. So I was
So
really
very
surprised,
limited number.
but I was surprised that with China's tradition in gymnastics and acrobatics that they would not just necessarily be in the finals in everything.
Who was in the finals of everything was Israel. And we know Israel has made a huge push in rhythmic gymnastics, but also in all these acrobatic and tumbling
Yes.
events, you'll see Israelis, which I think is very interesting because it's an aspect of gymnastics that doesn't require anything but a mat. And I wonder if also, obviously you have a lot of Russian emigres, and this is very important in Russia and all those pieces. But I think it's interesting, once again, and we've talked about this a million times, how different countries focus on these different aspects of a sport and become very good in certain areas. I'm sure you had the reaction of why aren't some of these here versus rhythmic gymnastics?
Oh, why aren't some of them in the Olympics?
Olympics.
I do. I wish tumbling was in the Olympics. I wish synchronized trampoline was in the Olympics because they already have trampoline and you're already bringing in trampolines and it's a one-day event. Make it 2 and get more exposure to that sport. But I hadn't thought about it the way that you put it with you don't need a lot of equipment for some of these disciplines and it makes it easier for other nations to get involved. And absolutely true. But
Australia was also very strong in a lot of these events. We saw them do very well in double mini tramp. Again, it's a very easy entry sport.
Yeah. But they're fun to watch of course, a lot of times you're watching like 4 teams or 4 entries, and it's over before you know it. But I wanna talk about the format that they had for some of these with
The knockouts.
yes, so they tried a new format this year for World Games, and I wonder if they're testing it here to see if it would work at the Olympics, and they put people in a bracket. So you would have 4 people or teams in the finals, and they'd have 2 head-to-heads, and the winners would move on to the gold medal round, and the losers would go into the bronze medal round.
Hated it.
I did too, especially in double tramp.
Yes, because what ended up happening in the men's double tramp, one bracket, both teams did not finish their routines. They had a mistake in the middle
Oh, for the synchro tramp?
for the men's
Yes, yes.
synchronized trampoline. And then in the other bracket, both teams got ridiculously high scores. So you end up with a team, you don't end up with the best teams on the podium
Right.
or
And
who
if
had the
you
best performances. Obviously, they're all really good teams, but meaning the people who had the most outstanding programs in this event. So I think it was Netherlands and Germany who both messed up, for lack of a better word, in their semi, but then got to move on because one of them has to move on.
right.
And you messed up one round and you could still win the gold medal. And someone who had a perfect program doesn't get to compete for the gold medal.
Right. So you take your semifinals, and it was a weird element of taking your semifinals and your finals because I saw this on women's double tramp, which is a mini trampoline that is long. So you run down a runway like you're doing a vault. You jump on the tramp, do a flip in the air, jump on the tramp again, do another flip and a landing. And the winner from the previous World Games from Spain, she went all out in her semifinals and had a bad landing. She fell on her landing because she tried
Yes.
to do a triple pike somersault backwards, and it was amazingly difficult. And she fell, and that put her in the bronze medal. And she seemed to have a good attitude about it because she tried and did what she could. But then in the final round, she got the best score out of everybody and got the bronze. So Portugal and the US were in for the gold medal round, and the US gymnast,
Grace Harder.
thank you, did not even hit the trampoline for the second time. She
Right.
totally
She
missed.
completely missed, but got the silver medal.
Right, and got a score of 0. And all that happened, it seemed over and over again in
Yes.
different events, and it just was not the way you want a finals to go.
Right. You want in these scored events the people who perform the best on the day to win. I understand they were trying to raise the stakes, but I don't think you needed to raise the stakes. I think with scored events, there's enough drama.
Right. This isn't a team sport where you're scoring points. I mean, you're scoring points, but yeah, it's judged. I don't
Let's
love
not
it.
do that again.
Yeah, let's not do it. Okay, what else did you watch?
So, watched a lot of DanceSport. So much fun. I just want to mention the couple that won the standards. It's Anastasia Glazanova and Alexei Glukov from Moldova. They have won 27 out of their last 27 competitions.
Holy cow. Holy
So,
cannoli.
Holy cannoli. So over the past, I think they said 2.5 years, nobody's beaten them. But there was one problem during the Latin round. So when each couple does its solo dance, but they're all doing the same dance. So they'll say it's the cha-cha or the samba. The problem was the song that they chose was Get Out of My Way, Ugly Woman. I have never heard this song before. And then you have all these absolutely stunning, beautiful ballroom dancers on the floor, and it's Get Out of My Way, Ugly Woman. So I'm hoping the DJ just didn't speak English. Tug of War.
Tug of War was amazing.
So what surprised me was they're classed by total weight of the team. So I watched the smaller weights of both the men and the women,
Okay.
and especially the men. It looked like the British team, who ended up winning the gold medal in the 640 kilograms, looked like they gathered a bunch of blokes from the pub. Like there's your teacher, there was the plumber, they looked a lot of mustaches, a lot of glasses. The guy who was the lead for the British team was this bald, like 40-something man. I said, "Are you here to fix my air conditioner?" They did not look athletic until they started. And then all the muscles would pop out and ripple and pull and the strategy. And it was great because they weren't the really big size where you're like, "Oh, okay, I see where this is going." This was very much like ordinary men and women. The men is what struck me because they all were so many of them were wearing glasses. And yet they clearly work so hard to be in shape to do this and work together. And that was just so much fun. And again, the commentator, who I believe was a Swiss athlete who had competed in tug of war, did a great job explaining, okay, now they're doing a pull. Now they're redo this footwork. Oh, he put his hand down. He has to pick it up in 3 seconds or they're going to be disqualified. So you think tug of war is so simple.
Mm,
No, and
so much
nothing
fun.
celebrates like a Team GB
Oh.
gold medal. They were so excited.
I watched the women's 500 kilograms, and a lot of it was in pouring rain, like monsoon
Yes.
levels of rain. I don't know how they did it because they're in mud, and that just added to the difficulty of the whole event. Chinese Taipei.
Chinese Taipei is really good at tug of war in all the categories.
And did you notice they had like these synchronized movements
Yes.
where they were just like, we're going foot, 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 foot. And they had the ability to lean backwards where you could tell when their opponents were like, oh, their opponents are starting to lead forwards. They're gone. Forget it. And they would just be Chinese Taipei. Okay, we got to stop for a minute, but then we're all doing our synchronized stuff. And I think that synchronization is what made them so successful.
And apparently each team has a very special formula for their stickum, for their hands.
Oh, okay.
And again, the announcer was explaining that this is the secret sauce of tug of war, and you do not share what's in that stickum.
Oh, right.
That is top secret. The KGB will come for you if you tell their formula.
But Chinese Taipei won the gold for the 6th time and did not lose one pull in that because it's always best of 3 in a matchup. It was just so amazing to watch. You can also buy those shoes for 100 to 125 pounds.
That's not bad.
That's not bad at all. What else did you watch?
Dragon Boat.
Did watch the Dragon Boat. I want to watch more Dragon Boat.
So Dragon Boat is basically rowing with a drum and a dragon at the top of the head, but it's a canoe paddle.
Yes, and you have 2 people on a bench.
Right. So the drummer is like the coxswain setting the pace for the paddlers. And also these races they're not straight lines like Olympic rowing.
Okay.
A lot of them were circles or like the marathon was very long.
Okay.
Fantastic. If you love rowing, there's nothing not to love about Dragon Boat.
Okay.
There's drums.
I know. I only watched like a race and a half and like what is up with the drums? I want to know more. And I haven't gotten back to it because I went to watch yesterday and saw on the feed it was canoe, marathon, dragon boat, mixture. And like, oh, dragon boat. And then it turned out to be the kayak marathon, which I sat through the women's for the and then I fast forwarded through some of the women's. But that's what I ended up watching a lot of yesterday.
So the drumming will remind you of that scene is at Spartacus where they do the drums in the slave boat.
Oh, okay.
Same idea where it's ramming speed. So you'll hear the different rhythms and the different pulls and calls. So it's the drummer's the coxswain, but in a much cooler way.
Nice addition by Chengdu. What else?
Let's talk about life-saving and Finswimming.
Oh, life-saving. I have thoughts on life-saving.
Okay. Life-saving in general, swimming with accessories. So love it. The one that freaked me out a little bit, well, we'll get to freediving, but they had 2 different kinds of fins. So they have one fin where it's one fin and the swimmers look like mermaids.
Okay.
And then there's another fin where it's 2 fins.
Okay. I only saw the 2-fin one. I
Okay.
have to go.
The one fin is amazing. If you ever had to play mermaids when you were a little girl, or you're a mother who had to play mermaids with your daughter, the minute I put this on, I did not say a word. And my daughter immediately said, "Oh, it's like they're playing mermaids." So for everybody out there who has a daughter, just put the one fin on and they will be happy.
So Lifesaving had different events that usually involved swimming part of a pool, diving down to the bottom partway through to pick up a mannequin, and then dragging the mannequin back. I always felt so bad for the mannequin because you're saving them, but they were still submerged. Like, they had to swim with the mannequin with one arm, which I get that, but like, take the mannequin and keep its head above water. You're you're just
It's a
drowning.
mannequin, Jill.
But like, if it was a real person, would you do that?
Well, if it was a real person, you wouldn't be racing against the clock.
Well, you are because they're dying.
Well, no. Okay, let's be fair. If you are lifeguarding, the person isn't necessarily isn't already not breathing. Most of the time when you scoop them up, it's just that they can't get themselves out of the water. And also,
Right.
the person would be helping hold its own head above the water. The mannequin is not participating.
Yeah, but if somebody was at the bottom of a pool and they were obviously not coming back up of their own accord, and you went in to go get them, would you want their head to be underwater for the length of half a length of a pool?
But in lifeguarding, often you begin breath of life while you're still in the water.
I have a hard time picturing that, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's if the person is truly not breathing, you begin as you're swimming. You do both at the same time.
So that would mean their head would be above water.
Yes, but there's also not 8 other people that were stuck at the bottom of the pool. They're being
don't
rescued
know.
at the same time, and you're
We
trying to
don't
beat a
know.
world record.
It's a lot of fun to watch. I will say the life-saving thing it's fun to watch.
And also very simple,
Yes.
and like swimming is, how this works and who to win.
Yes. But then there's freediving.
Dear Lord in heaven, I lasted for about 2 minutes watching
Oh, that's
this.
it? Oh my goodness.
Because, okay, since we've already established that this show is my therapy, I absolutely have a fear of getting trapped in a car and getting stuck underwater.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So when those people were kind of trapping themselves under the water to stay submerged as long as possible, you might as well have just put me in a snake pit. That
Okay.
was awful.
Yeah, so this freediving, I watched Dynamic without fins, and then I think they have one with fins that I probably won't have time to watch.
This cannot be good for their brains.
No, so the point is, how far distance-wise can you go underwater in one breath? And you can take as long as you need for this. There's like a whole preparation time. You have 2 people in the water at once, and they just go at their own pace, and there are a lot of spotters who are in the water too, especially when the swimmers surface. They have to surface, they have to give an okay sign, and they have to kind of stay conscious for 20 seconds. And they get a white card if they do. That means their free dive was valid. If they black out or fall back in the water and need assistance within that 20 seconds, somebody else touches them to help them out, then they get a red card and their dive is disqualified. Which I would say, if you're underwater for 4 minutes, 3-4 minutes, that would be tough to lose it at the end.
And these people have to train for this. So the hypoxia that is happening with their brain over multiple years.
Well, I can't imagine what training goes into this, but that's...
And they do this weird, I think, was it listener Brian who got upset about the weird breathing at the beginning?
I got upset about the weird breathing too. Well, okay, so they have a whole countdown thing at the...
Which is terrifying.
which is, and there's a point in the countdown where they start taking very shallow breaths to get as much air into their lungs as possible. And to me, it looks like competitive eating. And I physically cannot watch competitive eating without needing to get like 4th of July is just the worst for me if we're out and about and happen to see TV and they show the competitive eating stuff because I physically cannot look at it. That's what this looked like. And these people have neck weights on as well to keep them kind of down. And then the announcer says top time. And then they have a certain amount of time to start their dive. And then they just do very slow, very long underwater pulls for as long as they can. And that can be up to 170 some meters, 200 meters. I think we saw a world record, or I saw a world record that I believe was over 200 meters.
This goes back to discussions that have been had about football, American football.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a sport if you're killing people? Is it a sport if you're giving them permanent brain damage?
Right.
And this isn't as simple as, not as simple, but, with football, it's this, oh, well, it's contact. We don't really know. Starving your brain of oxygen over long periods of time, over many years, we know that does damage.
And a lot of these athletes were in their like late 30s and 50s.
So they've been doing this for
how
what?
long, right? And how often do they train? What goes into the training? Do they not take many attempts underwater? I don't know how you train your body to go that far. And I get the general purpose of, especially like I can just see myself in the pool as a kid. I bet I can go underwater farther than you. I totally get that. But to the extent that you have sportified this so much, and by sportify, I mean like added all these dimensions of training, like those neck weights are $262 on freedivershop.com.
And I understand the pushing your body to the limit. And so much of sport is about what is my body capable of that I didn't think it was capable of.
Right. But to say, I want to see how far I can go before my brain shuts off and my body shuts down, that doesn't seem like it's in the same spirit of other sports. Like, I mean, people don't go play football because they're going to say, I want to play football because I want to hit somebody so hard they die. I don't think people go into football doing that. I
think there are people who go into football doing it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of sports are dangerous. A lot of sports, I mean, there's always a risk of injury. There's always a risk of hurting yourself. There's always a risk of head injury, even in ordinary sports that we're very comfortable with. I mean, we had that whole discussion about pole vaulting and how dangerous that can be. But this feels like there's no upside.
Right. I really would love to hear from people who enjoy this sport because I want to understand why there's an enjoyment factor, or if you participate in the sport, I would love to know why you do. And just to understand, because from what I see, just watching it, I struggle to understand the appeal on a sporting level.
Yes.
And understand why you want to push yourself that far. And I think what got me about the neck weight is if you have to have a sport that keeps you down underneath the surface, and if you have to have something physical to keep you under the surface of the water for longer, what's really working there?
Are you pushing your body or are you just using these tools?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the tool helps you push your body farther, but should you be allowed to do that? But then I guess you could go, well, marathon runners had the fancy shoes. So where does equipment, and who was the first person who said, oh, hey, I know what'll help me. I'll just throw some weight around my neck and that'll keep me down longer. I don't know, but
possibly a gangster.
So you're saying Jimmy Hoffa did the sport?
He's the original World Games champion.
So yeah, I mean, this is a very conflicting sport, I would say. A really conflicting event and we had a huge discussion about it on Facebook, it's been a really interesting discussion, but this is a sport that it's a tough one. So if you've watched freediving, if you participate in freediving, get in touch with us because we want to hear about it. What else did
And
you watch? Oh, go
I
ahead.
watched Floorball.
Yeah.
There is a Swedish Super League of
Really?
professional floorball players. So a lot of these, I was watching the women, and a lot of these women do play in that Swedish league. I was watching Finland and Switzerland. Finns apparently, it seems to be extremely popular in the Nordic countries.
Okay.
Talk about old school competitive. It's floor hockey, and it's fantastic. And apparently the Swedes and the Swiss, and I know Swiss is not Nordic, don't come at me, and the Finns, they all do very well in this.
Okay.
And got to listen to Ollie Hogman.
All awesome. I only watched a period of Sweden versus Switzerland for the women because Ollie told me, you have to watch this right now. And he was not wrong. I will say that. It's a fun sport to watch. It's really
It's
cool.
very simple to understand if you've watched any combination of basketball, hockey, field hockey, you will understand what's going on.
Mhm.
And you'll understand why some of these, especially the women, are just so darn good.
Yeah, and I do want to know what it's like to be a goalie and have that ball whipped at you because if I'm correct, it looks like a wiffle ball almost. It's got holes in it.
I
Maybe.
couldn't really see it to be honest, I couldn't tell, but it can't feel good.
What else did you watch?
Today I was watching Canoe Polo.
Oh, because that has started.
That has started today, and it is water polo and horse polo, I guess, in a way, because the people are in canoes in a pool. So it's like they're on the horse, but it's water polo because they're in the pool. A little hard to watch on TV simply because it's hard to find the ball,
Okay.
but
A lot of
also
boats.
a lot of boats in the pool. But again, easy to understand. But all I'm like, how are they not falling out of the canoes? The lower body and core strength of these players must be so amazing. And it's fun. It's just like watching water polo at the Olympics. It's just a fun, spirited game that, okay, the ball has to go in the net. I understand that part of it. I can follow this. And the canoes crash into each other, so you got a little demolition derby happening. Sometimes somebody flips and they pop back up.
That is what I remember from watching it in Birmingham. So I am putting that on my list too. Anything else?
And then I just kind of bounced around and saw a little disc golf, a little korfball, little
Yeah.
of littles.
Little stuff that I did pop into disc golf, and I think I turned it on live, so I couldn't rewind when it was happening. And I want to know more. I'd like to go back and watch this to see because the number of discs these people were traveling with was just astounding to me. And I did listen to a little of the World Games podcasts. They've been putting out shows, and they're very short episodes, and they don't have the same approach that we do with how does this work. So I tried to figure that out on the fly. I couldn't figure out if there were caddies with them. They did talk about the enormous building that Patrick from Chicagoland pointed out, this enormous building in the background, which is pretty impressive.
But it's about the height of one player's worth of discs.
Oh,
because they take so many discs with them. Just stack them up and you could get to
Right?
the top of that building.
right. So I'd love to understand like the different sizes. And I actually have a set of disc golf discs. It's a 3-pack.
You do not.
Somebody gave it to me as a gift, and I haven't been able to use them because disc golf has not necessarily for me that I know of.
I have a course when you come by,
Okay,
right near
well,
my house.
maybe I'll bring them with, and we'll figure it out. But I am curious to learn more about it, and it seemed interesting. I popped into orienteering. Oh, we haven't talked orienteering. Tragedy in orienteering because sadly there's been a tragedy in the orienteering competition. Mattia De Bertolis from Italy was found unconscious during the men's middle distance competition on Friday, the 8th of August, and they took him to the hospital immediately. under expert medical care, they said, sadly, he passed away on the 12th. And we don't know what the cause of death was, but that just so sad had to have that hanging over the competition. And I jumped into the women's sprint, and that wasn't addressed, but I also think he was still in the hospital at that point. Orienteering, I mean, you're running very fast and you're thinking on the fly because you're reading a map while you were running. And they were talking about how insanely humid it was out there. Don't know if weather was a factor in his passing. Could be. Don't know how long middle distance is. That's also a tough thing. The sprint was, they said, about 3 kilometers, I think, overall. And that would take roughly 14, 15 minutes tops. They went through a botanical garden type place. It looked really cool. Tons of different cultural gardens, some of them blocked off because they weren't allowed to go in some areas, obviously, because they didn't want to ruin the vegetation. But it was trying to figure out which was the best way you were allowed to go on the fly, and running into little nooks and crannies along the way, trying to find things. Started to rain near the end, and the end is where all of the top sprinters went or were running, so they had to run down sets of stairs or like terraced stairs, so there'd be like 5 stairs and somebody would jump down and then run couple steps and then you'd go down again. And I'm like, oh, you are taking the next set of stairs one by one, must be slippery, because it did look like slippery rock. Every once in a while, and I remember this from watching Orienteering at Birmingham, they'd put up the map that the participants are looking at, and they'd have different lines of where different athletes were on the course, so you could follow them. That I loved. They also had drone footage going on. Helpful, but the drones were too high.
So you couldn't really tell if it was a tree or a person.
That's true. Yeah, you couldn't tell if it was a tree or a person, and you couldn't necessarily. I couldn't also gauge how big the course was, so it may have been you couldn't get a full aerial view and see enough people running. That would have been too high. And then to get lower to see something, you got a little bit, but you couldn't tell where in the course they were. And then you'd have a couple of stations where you'd have camera people on the ground running with them. I know this
God
poor
bless
person
them.
had to run probably 40 meters or so. It wasn't a very far run,
But
20
in the
20 to 40
heat,
minutes. Yes,
with their equipment,
yes,
and they can't look down.
right. So they're
So you got-
following, yes,
You got to hope there's not a tree root on your
right.
on your
Right,
section.
right. That was impressive. I really those camera people needed to be applauded for that. So I think they were trying to find ways to make orienteering more spectator friendly. And maybe you could do it like if you had like biathlon or cross country where you can put people along the route, but part of the sport is figuring out what the route is. So if you have people on it, oh, I can't go over there. But it's a really tough sport to follow. And the way they do it is they have one person out on the course, and it must be a minute or so before they allow the next person out onto the course.
Like a cycling time trial.
Yes, so it does get confusing to know where you're at, and they obviously can only have so many controls that are filmed. So it's tough. I like the sport a lot. It's a really fun sport to do, but it's tough to watch. And I think they're trying very hard, and I think it's a great sport for the World Games, but it's a tough watch.
It'll be interesting to see how Milan handles ski mountaineering with that. It's a little different because there is a set course, but just that not everybody is on the course at the same time. And how do they make a sport that people are unfamiliar with more accessible
True.
and exciting?
True. And it's kind of like biathlon where you have a sprint that is individuals get released, but I don't know how they did it back in the day to make that a format that works.
And it's
But
not
they
like
also have
Americans love biathlon.
No, but you have plenty of countries that do. So there's
Right.
plenty of countries in Europe that love orienteering and just need a way to make it more family friendly. But then you also would think like, well, if you have cross country or mountain biking, it's another one that's similar where there aren't many places where you can have people on the path. How do you film this? I will watch more because I do like it. Watched a tiny bit of parkour. I wondered why modern pentathlon did not go with a parkour sprint versus the obstacle course because it's so much less equipment. I think it's a lot of pipes and a lot of blocky boxes and maybe a little rampiness, but it looked like a lot of kind of an IKEA put this assemble, stuff comes in pieces and you assemble your parkour course like you want to. It seemed more cost effective versus an obstacle course.
I tried to turn it into parkour, and the particular event, as I mentioned earlier, didn't have an announcer, so I got very frustrated very quickly. But I did think it was a lost opportunity on the parkour course, and this could just be World Games and budget, that you could do so much more with that course like you do for a show jumping.
Oh, yeah, you
In
could.
in terms of, you could put not real trees,
Yes.
but just like they do with the horse jumps, please don't put the naked sumo wrestler there like Tokyo did. But that same idea of kind of selling the city, an opportunity to sell the city or
Yeah.
wherever it is in that program. Again, it would make it more expensive, but it could be a fun little aspect to
Right.
it because I remember Birmingham, it was just plain as well.
Yes.
So I guess in general, parkour courses are plain, but I think they're missing a chance.
Right. Right. So I saw a women's sprint. That was a lot of fun. It's head to head for the most part. Saw a tiny bit of men's freestyle, which is just let them loose on the course. I think they have to, and they kind of stop when they're done. Maybe they've made a mistake or they've landed something a little funky and they're done, or they go. I bet there's a time limit too. And that to me is more it's more of an improvised, like, figure skating routine almost because you have a lot of twisting and flipping and using then you use different elements of the course to do your moves, but that to me, I have a harder time following that, and it falls into the kinda skateboarding realm for me. So, I like races.
You do like
I like
races,
races.
and you like races where they have to do things, especially.
Yes. Yeah. Watched a tiny bit of men's softball. This was like day 1. Singapore versus Canada was on, and Singapore was ahead, so you could see how Canada was getting frustrated. But it was fun to watch men play softball.
Yes, though unfortunately, the medal games ended up getting washed out because of that monsoon rain that we talked about.
And they just canceled them.
They just canceled them and awarded 2 gold medals and 2 bronze medals.
So then I was like, "Oh, as a player, you want to have your last game." Didn't understand if the scheduling wouldn't allow it, and then, listener Brian pointed out to me that the federations may not have money for the athletes to stay longer. So they may have like, you may have been scheduled to go out the next day, and in a way, you go, "Well, what kind of World Games experience do you get out of that?" Because and this happens in the Olympics too, because they can't have every athlete stay in the village at the same time. And especially during COVID, they were like, "Okay, you're in and you're out." But if you want to have, like, this Olympic experience and bring the world together and bring athletes together and promote peace and learn how to get along, why not let them stay longer? But I know money's a factor because the federations have to pay for it.
And also, I've been watching a few of the daily shows,
Oh,
and
yeah, we haven't gotten to those.
and they've talked to some World Games officials, and one of the things that they've all been highlighting is we are trying to be both environmentally responsible
Mhm.
with the no bill and very cost effective. So they don't want the federations spending more money than they need to. They don't want the cities spending more money than they need to. So rescheduling games and reissuing tickets and all that kind
Mm,
of thing. They didn't say we don't want to be bloated like the Olympics, but that was certainly they want to be lean and mean and very agile so that more cities want to do this and the sports want to continue to participate. That
yeah.
this isn't a drain on their funds that it is an opportunity to win more fans, win more participants, because these sports don't get the exposure.
Right. And that all makes sense. It's just like the downside of that is when you have a situation like this.
Right.
And yeah, it's exciting to go home with a gold medal and you've won the gold in one way, but you're like, well,
Did I really?
I didn't get that last game to prove it. So I don't know what the athletes think of that versus the organizers. There's two different points of view, but interesting how they do that. Watched a bronze medal match for the women's single squash. Baines, I believe Marta Dominguez beat Ho from Hong Kong. I have played a little bit of squash. Squash is very hard. The ball is very dense, and they
How
have to
does that
whack
play
it.
on TV given that they're in a box?
Well, the box is glass, so you can see through it. The camera angles could have been better. I think they still are figuring out where to show the points from because it moves so fast that they tended to have a camera angle from the back. And then on replays, they would show different angles that you could see the ball because I'm sure it's trying to figure out you can't anticipate quickly enough, I think, to change where the ball is going to go and where the players are going to go. Maybe could have zoomed in a little bit during actual play, but it was an interesting match. Dominguez was really dominating and then accidentally during a point whacked Ho in the head with the racket. Yeah, and so there was a little bit of an injury timeout, and then pretty soon it was almost at the end of the match. Ho got another point or two, but then lost the match pretty handily.
Hey, Jill, you want to go play some squash with me?
Do you want to play squash?
I might want to hit you in the head with a racket.
Oh!
No, I would never.
Sure
Well, it
do.
depends on if you yell at me.
Right? I'm sure there's plenty of like, oh, I just want to hit her in the head with a squash racket. But it's fun. I mean, the sport itself is fun. If you like racket sports, you'll probably really like squash.
And we'll see it in LA, so nice chance to get a little familiar with it.
Exactly. And then, like we mentioned, watched a little bit of wakeboarding right in the beginning of the games. I know listener Brittany was like, oh, this sport is so cool. And
It
is
has the
cool.
same appeal of surfing
Yes.
and skateboarding and those kinds of you do tricks, and it is
Right.
fun.
So you are pulled by a powerboat. You use a rope to stand up on your wakeboard, and then at a certain point, you let go of the rope, and you are basically surfing in the wake of the boat. So it's like it's really, if you don't have access to the ocean, you get waves made for you by a powerboat, and you could be in a lake and still do surfing moves. And it was very cool.
The funniest part, I've forgotten that I did watch some of this besides, Holy Cannoli, Axel Foley. They were talking about the driver of the boat,
Mm.
and they were saying they had brought in a driver from South Korea because he's one of the best in the world at these competitions. So talk about specializing in something nobody's heard of. For wakeboard competitions, are you a good powerboat driver?
Oh, man. If we had the resources to do a World Games podcast, that just went on my list of stuff to ask. But sadly, that's going in the pipe dream list, I think, for now. But what I liked about wakeboarding is that it made surfing accessible to a lot more people.
Both both as spectators and participants.
Yes.
Because this was a lot easier to watch than Olympic surfing, which you're in the middle of the ocean, very hard to do camera angles. They had a camera on the boat, and then they had a separate camera that went with the rider, and very easy to keep the person in focus.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot
And
of
one
fun.
person at a time.
Yes. A lot of fun to watch. A lot of fun. So, yeah, we've got one more week.
We have not talked any of the fighting sports, so we'll have
No.
to make a point of taking a look at all of those. Barely talked much team sports. We haven't talked korfball.
No. And that's been another domination nation in korfball. A lot of people are seeing different stuff, and I know Brian was talking a lot about korfball, so got to see that. Beach handball sounds like the end was fantastic. Got to see that.
We've got lacrosse and flag football coming up.
Yes.
And we didn't even mention billiards.
I watched about 5 seconds of billiards yesterday before, well, not a little more than 5 seconds, but less than 5 minutes before I switched over to squash because I was like, "Oh, I better watch some squash." And it was mesmerizing. I only saw one person do part of a table, but it is also the wearing suits, and you have whatever officials in a nice suit. So billiards is going on to my list to watch. Tons and tons of stuff to watch. We at Daily Show, I watched about 10 minutes of one episode.
I've dipped in and out. So on the feed every day there is a daily show, kind of like what they do with Carolyn Mano for the Olympics. They have a couple people in a studio chit-chatting about the events, but they also do a cultural segment,
Mm-hmm.
a much classier version of the Mary Carrillo segments that I would just denigrate to no end. But
That's
these
because
are
the
much
people with accents, they have accents.
No, it's not that they have accents. It's that they don't approach it like, "Gee whiz, I'm an American. Isn't this funny what they do here?"
Oh,
They present it like you as a viewer are intelligent and you want to see that these beautiful aspects of the Chinese culture and the beautiful aspects of Chengdu and this region. So worth a watch
okay.
if you like those aspects of Olympic coverage.
I mean, what I got, because like I said, I only watched 10 minutes of one episode, and they had just like here are the athletes of the day was the one thing sandwiched in of World Games. And I didn't understand necessarily why the solo athlete of the day was the athlete of the day, because I'm not sure the announcer, the main host knew it either. As I was watching the culture, there was the cultural segment, and then they had another interview with some other broadcasters who were local. I could have used that in the week leading up to the games to make me excited about Chengdu. And I think that's because there are so many sports and so many things to watch at all times because everything's on a stream that if this was the only way I was getting coverage and it was the late night show or the primetime show and they were putting the cultural elements in it because that's what you do in a primetime show and you're going to watch it because that's the only thing you get to watch, then I'd be happier with it. But knowing that I have like 5 more sports on my list to watch today and your daily show, if there are highlights in it, I don't know. There might be some highlights. I think
There
so.
are highlights.
Okay. But I would have loved that going into the games to learn more about Chengdu and get more excited about the city. And then you'd see stuff like, oh, I see this building in the background. That's what they talked about in the segment. So I wonder if there is a place for that, but I wonder if it's now something that you have to do in the lead up to a games versus trying to sandwich that in the middle of all of this action.
Like, is that their social media campaign ahead of the games?
Yeah, or even like they've got a feed, put it on the feed once and start Chengdu before Chengdu starts. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I kind of think that there's a place for that style of broadcasting, but I'm not sure where it is in the coverage anymore. But listeners, if you have thoughts, let us know. If you are watching and you are not in our Facebook group, try to get into our Facebook group. Listener John's doing a great job of putting up a daily schedule, which, John, we really appreciate that. And lots of talk going on with tons of people. So it's a lot of fun in the Facebook group.
Keep the Flame Alive podcast.
Yes. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening.
And until next time, keep the flame alive.